If you haven't ever been hungry, you just don't get it. If you haven't had to worry how you're going to feed your kids, you just don't get it. If you're just feeling totally discouraged and hopeless because you just don't know how you're going to get to the store, will somebody come? What if I can't fix a meal?
See local efforts and creative solutions to address a really widespread and debilitating issue of food security. It was so inspiring. I just think with the news and the general consensus, it just feels like these issues are too big to tackle. But it does take some ingenuity, and it takes using the system in a way that uses a local focus and the unique aspects of your locality. Um, and some dedication to make it happen. So I just love the variety of perspectives that we got from individuals who need the services, from restaurateurs, from the farmers. It just made for a really well-rounded and holistic view at how this program was put into place and how it affects each person down the line, their contribution, but also the impact on them. And just hearing the people's stories of the stress, of the worry of whether they could feed themselves, of the finding a light in the darkness. There was a real emotional tie to it. And you could tell that this didn't just put food in their bellies, but really impacted people emotionally in finding the comfort and stability. So, a really brilliantly curated piece and had a lot of heart to it.
The way that it was presented, I thought it was great, starting with the pandemic starting and how it all came to fruition, and just seeing the thought process of all these businesses who were going out of business and people potentially having to get laid off and whatnot, and kind of seeing the thought process behind how something as wonderful as this happened. I thought it was really great. And just also the aspect of just showing people's humanity. I feel like that's something that we really lose in the world nowadays, and seeing it firsthand in a documentary like this from a small town is just absolutely stunning. There was one person who made the point of, if you can do something in your small corner of the world, then it really does make a difference. And that's the great part about this documentary, how it's people who probably didn't even think they'd be doing something like this in their lifetime. And now, you have all this time to help these people, and you have more than one or two reasons to help other people, and to be able to finally give back was probably so rewarding. And I know it was, because that's what these people were describing. And I thought it was just very beautiful to see. I thought it was shot very well. I loved the interviews. I love the in-depth analysis of everyone's experiences, and just kind of like how being a part of Vermont Everybody Eats has helped them grow, and also seeing perspectives from people who it has really benefited and really helped.
Inspirational and powerful piece about a food drive initiative in Vermont that took place during the pandemic and continued up till right now, if I'm not mistaken. I thought the piece had a really great sort of exploration as to what it looks like for regular people to sort of create a grassroots movement to help their neighbors and the people directly around them, and reflected sort of how stark the food insecurity dynamic is in this country, and of course around the world. And I thought the piece used Vermont as an interesting template for what could be, or what should be really replicable in other places, in terms of operating with a sense of empathy and a graciousness to people who are struggling, even if you are yourself are not struggling. So I thought the piece really worked well in terms of creating an emotional appeal, as well as showcasing a logical and practical way to actually help people.
I loved how, like I said, their successes for prepared foods program was what I think needs to be talked about more, because there are plenty of prepared foods programs that are funded. Talking about what they did very, very right, and all of the things that they did exceptionally well, I think is really important, because they had healthy food selections, they had a variety of different meals, they had, you know, things for different dietary needs and restrictions. And when you're talking about like a subsidized funded program, those kinds of things aren't usually taken into consideration. And so I really, like I said, I really, really loved hearing about this. Yes, it was born out of necessity, but I think the things that they did very well should be talked about, should be, thought about more, to, like one of them said, to maybe transition from emergency to necessity, to also just, think about maybe applying those to some other already funded prepared food programs. And I really, really loved hearing about this.
Dives into the idealism that food should be a basic common good that is accessible to everybody. And it is located in this movement in Vermont through a nonprofit for Everybody Eats. And it really helps fuel the restaurant business, the farmers, and the eaters. They claim that this is the 3 pillars to create community and bring people together. They really saw the struggle in the pandemic and really thought about what resources they could use as a community to come together and really solve a social economic issue. As we know that we face what could be just as bad as the Great Depression, if not more, in this experience. So you really get to see the whole team of people come together, both in leadership positions, in volunteer positions, in members of the community, and how they all come together to be grateful. You get to see the effects that this movement had, as we get to see that so many restaurants and stores got to stay in business and people got to keep their jobs. We really get to see how much an impact like this matters and ends up changing a whole community.
I just absolutely loved that these people were so wonderful to think out of the box, to put this program into place. And I do agree that one of the people said, how is it not an emergency for a single family to go hungry? But yet it is when more people are facing that situation together as a nation. Well, it's true. Why isn't it an emergency? And it is a necessity. These people need to eat, not just during a pandemic. So I really would love to see something like this in more states and more often. I think funding is used probably in many ways that is not efficient, when really hunger is such a basic thing to fill the need of. So anyway, I absolutely love this, that they use the local ingredients from the farms, healthy prepared meals distributed, and how the woman said, if you haven't ever been hungry, you really just don't get it. It's totally a thing for, like I said, even for people who on an everyday basis are dealing with this without the pandemic. But feeling it as a whole nation was very powerful. And I think, like the woman said, we should have been building up the social safety net. And I think we need to do that even now. Disasters leave imprints on society that not everyone sees. If you hide it, people don't have to believe it's true. A lot of great input from everybody that was talking in this. I really felt like this was a really emotional documentary. It was great to see that these restaurant people were able to survive by helping people. And it is a great system, and that's how it should be.
You don't understand the severity of food insecurity unless you've experienced it firsthand. Seeing how difficult it can be to acquire food, especially if you have a family. But it also is a very humbling experience as well, because it means you have to accept just how dire your situation is. And And the ending is definitely very true in the sense that, yes, we've gotten through the brunt of the pandemic. Lockdown has long since ended with the vaccinations. Every day you see less and less people wearing masks. But the issue now is that the ramifications of the entire world shutting down for a bit over a year are starting to poke their heads through as we're dealing with very nasty recession like prices as everything is gradually getting more and more expensive. Um, it deals with those issues of when you once could afford food, now you can't. How are you going to eat? Um, so I think this was a very well made documentary, and it dealt with some very heavy but important topics.